Today, we're digging into one of the world's most mysterious texts, the 3,000-year-old Ching. But here's the twist. Our guide for this journey is a magical, philosophy-loving dragon named Zoran. And, his story might just be the most practical, down-to-earth way to understand this ancient oracle.
So let's just get right to it. How on earth can a 3,000-year-old book about cosmology and wisdom be explained by a fantasy story? One with a dragon, wise turtles, and meditating pandas. Well, it sounds kind of nuts, but as we're about to see, it's actually a brilliant way to make these huge ancient ideas feel real and, well, useful. All right, so before we join Zoran on his quests, let's get a handle on the book itself. What exactly is the I Ching? Its real power starts to make sense when you realize just how deep its roots go. Now, this is not some recent New Age trend. Its roots stretch all the way back to oral traditions over 5,000 years ago. Seriously. It started out as a divination manual for kings, and then, over centuries, it evolved into one of the most important philosophical texts in Chinese culture. This is a book that has been tested, debated, and refined for millennia. The name itself, the Book of Changes, tells you pretty much everything you need to know. See, its core philosophy isn't about predicting some fixed, unchangeable future, not at all. It's actually a tool for understanding the present moment in all its complexity, teaching that the only constant in life is change. So how does this Book of Changes actually work? Well, it's built on this really beautiful and logical system of symbols. Our dragon friend Zoran, he saw them as these magical puzzles, just waiting to be solved. So let's break them down. The entire system is built around 64 core symbols, which are called hexagrams. Think of each one as a snapshot of a universal situation or a pattern, things we all experience, like conflict or peace. And the way they're put together is just so elegantly simple. So each of these 64 hexagrams is made of 6 lines. A solid line represents yang. You can think of that as active, creative energy. And a broken line represents yin, which is more like receptive, passive energy. It's the unique mix of these yin and yang lines that describes all the hidden forces at play in any given moment. But the system gets even more elegant. It goes deeper. Those 64 hexagrams, they're all just combinations of an even smaller set of symbols. Only 8 foundational trigrams. Each of these is a simple 3-line symbol that represents a fundamental force of nature, things like heaven, earth, fire, and water. You combine these basic ingredients to create all 64 of those complex life situations. So, this brings us back to our dragon, Zoran. How does his story make any of this practical? This is where the dragon's journey really becomes our own. See, Zoran doesn't just read the I Ching, he lives it. And through his adventures, he shows us how to translate this really abstract wisdom into advice we can actually use in our lives. Okay, let's take hexagram 3. It deals with the situation we have all been in, that struggle of starting something new, right? Whether it's a project, a new job, or just a new phase in your life. Now, the original text from the I Ching gives this judgment. It's super wise, it's profound, but it's also a little formal, a little abstract. It talks about firm correctness and supreme success. And you're kind of left wondering, okay, but what am I supposed to do? And this is how Zoran translates that. He tells the younger creatures to see perseverance not as some big idea, but as a tiny seed pushing its way through soil. He tells them to take small steps, to see obstacles not as roadblocks, but as stepping stones, and to stay anchored. It's the exact same wisdom, but suddenly, it's advice you can actually follow.
Let's look at another one. Hexagram 6, conflict. We all know this one, right? That tension, that disagreement that can pop up in any relationship or situation.
So once again, the ancient text offers this very cautious, sage advice. It warns you that even if you have good intentions, you can still face opposition, and it's smart to avoid making things worse. It's sound counsel, for sure, but it's still pretty high level.
And here again, this is where Zoran just turns that caution into real strategy. His advice is to choose your battles wisely and, crucially, to maintain your inner harmony, like you're in the eye of a storm.
He reframes the whole goal. It's not about winning, it's about resolution. And maybe his most important lesson, that choosing peace is actually an act of bravery, not weakness. But Zoran's story does more than just simplify this ancient wisdom. It also builds this amazing bridge to a key concept in modern psychology, one that was deeply, deeply influenced by the I Ching itself. At one point in his journey, Zoran literally asks his teacher this exact question. And it's such a cool moment because the famous psychologist Carl Jung was one of the I Ching's biggest champions in the West. He was so into it, he even wrote the foreword to one of the most popular English translations.
The answer, as his master explains, is all about Jung's idea of synchronicity. The thinking is that when you consult the I Ching, the hexagram you get isn't magically telling you the future. Instead, it's a meaningful coincidence. It's a reflection of your own inner psychological state at that exact moment. The I Ching, in this view, acts like a mirror, helping you see your own situation more clearly.
And this brings us to what might be the most profound lesson from the I Ching, a piece of wisdom that is so beautifully hidden in the very structure of the book itself.
You'd probably expect a book of wisdom like this to end on a chapter called Ultimate Success, or Enlightenment, or, completion. But the I Ching doesn't do that. Its 63rd hexagram is after completion, but its 64th, the very last one, is called before completion, or as it's sometimes translated, unfinished business.
And that's it. That's the most profound message of all, hidden right there in the book's structure. There is no final state of perfection. There is no finish line. The cycle of change is endless. So the I Ching's final word is actually a beginning. It leaves us not with an answer, but with a question for our own journey. What quest is just beginning for you?